New York City. So this is a fun little segment. Um, a little about me. Uh, this is kind of weird to talk about me on a economic channel, but I like buying Counter Strike. Now I'm not. I don't trade Counter Strike skins. Uh, unless at least for monetary value. I'll trade them if I think they look pretty and they're worth it. But I don't care for the marketplace of CS, and it's got its pros and cons for sure. But this comes from Yahoo News and PC Gamer. New York sues Valve for, quote, letting children and adults illegally gamble, unquote, with loot boxes. New York State Attorney General Letitia James announced on X and Blue Sky today that the state of New York is opening a lawsuit against Valve for violating the state's gambling laws through its games. In a brief post, James says Valve has, quote, made billions of dollars by letting children and adults illegally gamble for the chance to win valuable virtual prizes. These features are addictive and harmful, unquote. In a subsequent press release, the Attorney General office called out Counter Strike 2, Team Fortress 2, and Dota 2 specifically. Well, duh. That's like Valve's biggest game. You know what I mean? You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Of course, that's like, oh, we're suing Apple based on their iPhone and Mac stuff. You know what I mean? Like, well, duh. You're probably not
Yeah.
selling them over their earbuds. Quote, an investigation by the Office of the Attorney General found that Valve's video games, including Counter-Strike games, enabled gambling by enticing users to pay for the chance to win a rare virtual item of significant monetary value. Okay. Valve's most popular game, the process resembles a slot machine with an animated spinning wheel that eventually rests on a selected item. The randomly selected virtual items have no in-game functionality. False skins make you play better, but can be sold online for
That
money
is true.
with
Backed up by
one.
research.
Absolutely, dude. With one item reportedly being sold for more than $1 million. The lawsuit alleges that Valve has made billions of dollars luring its users, many of them who are teenagers or younger, to engage in gambling in hopes of winning expensive virtual items that they can cash in on. With this lawsuit, Attorney General James seeks a permanent stop to permanently stop Valve from continuing to promote illegal gambling in its games to pay disagree disgord God, fuck it, to pay fines. Okay, so and they go into like guns being sold for a lot of money. Okay, so I have a couple things on this. What do we classify as gambling? So I'm not trying to defend loot boxes here, but from my understanding, gambling implies you lose your. You know what I mean? To me, it's you lose your money. With loot boxes, if I had to make an argument for loot boxes, you are at least guaranteed something. You know what I mean? Because if you go into something like a Five Below, they've got those boxes too. You know, you got the little toy inside. You don't know what it is, um, and it's a gamble. And you could say the same thing for McDonald's and their Happy Meals. You know, granted, that's a smaller scale. That's kind of a goofy thing to think about. But like, there are times when McDonald toys, you know, they become worth value because A, of how quote unquote rare they are, and B, adults want to buy, you know, kid toys because of the nostalgia factor. Not me. I'll point that out there. So you know what I mean. So it's not the only. You know what I mean? Am I making sense? Like we say, loot boxes are
Yeah.
gambling, but you're guaranteed something. If I don't get a toy in my Happy Meal, I go inside McDonald's and I get the toy for my kid. You know what I mean? So, at least in my mind, the difference between a loot box and a casino is if I put $5 into a slot machine, there's a chance I don't get that money back. Period. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I guess that we can go by that logic. The those quarter turn machines you see at like retail stores. If I, again, we're not. I understand the difference between a plastic ring you get in a 50-cent turntable thing at a retail store and a blue gem case hardened AK-47 on Counter Strike 2. I understand there's a monetary difference perceived by the public. But you know what I mean? It's the same thing. You put money
Yeah.
in, you get object out. You're guaranteed it. If you don't get it, you usually complain to the people, and they give you the object. Same thing with claw machines in arcades. You're, I can already tell you those things are rigged. They're meant to be rigged. I've read reports. I've seen videos. I had a family friend who worked on claw machines, and he'll tell you absolutely, yeah, they're rigged. Something, now granted, that was like 15 years ago. I don't know how they operate now, but they're rigged. You put money in, there's a chance you're not getting anything back. So I find it kind of goofy that it's only Valve, not EA for the Battlefront and their sports loot boxes, not Blizzard for their, I can only think of like Overwatch. Does Diablo, you would know better. Does Diablo have any loot box systems? You would know better than I would.
I don't think so. Not that you could buy.
Okay,
But I don't
that's fair.
remember.
You know what I mean? Like, I know Call of Duty had a loot box system for a while. They got rid of it
Hmm.
over time. I think they've learned that they make more money just selling skins straight up. You know what I mean? But these are a whole bunch of
Yeah.
companies that are producing loot boxes. But Valve is the only one we're going to target. Now, granted, they might be using Valve to set an example. Maybe. Now, that's one point I've got. Any comments for that?
Nope.
Okay, fair. My second point is that I had a second point. What was I thinking of? Oh yeah, my second point. A, you're guaranteeing an item, but B, what people value that item as, like how much they think that is worth, that's not Valve's fault. No, okay, that's a lie. That's an absolute lie. Valve creates a rarity. You know what I mean? But there are, at least before they had the trade up contract for knives. Okay, for those who are listening, they don't know. So it's a loot box. You pay for a box, you pay for a key. Well, you get a box if you have Prime. You get a box once a week. You pay $2.64 with tax to open the box, and you get a random gun. And there's different rarities, and there might be different patterns and wear conditions. So, and then so it's divided by colors. You know, blue grays are like the most common, followed by blues, then purples, then pinks, and then like reds. Obviously, with it becoming less and less likely as the colors progress in the order I just gave it in. So yes, there's absolutely a factor to it. But before the trade up contract, if they thought the gun was the rare gun was ugly, it wouldn't be valued as much. You
Hmm.
know what I mean? So it's the people that determine how much they want to pay for the gun. Uh, you know what I mean? And case hardened blue
Yeah.
gem AK-47s are in a box that is no longer produced, so supply is not going up, but the demand is still there. And as the supply goes down, prices go up. But I think that box is like $135. So $135 plus a key to open it for a chance to get an AK, a rare AK with a chance of a good pattern. Besides the point. But that's a pretty, I'll say this, blue gems are pretty. I like them. I want to buy one.
Hmm.
I'm thinking about buying a Desert Eagle blue gem, the heat treated, and the 5.7.
Hmm.
But but the community determines the price. You know what I mean? It's cool that they brought up an example that a Counter Strike gun skin sold for $400,000 last year, but it only sold for $400,000 because somebody thought it was worth $400,000. The person who sold it thought the gun was valued at that price or lower, and the person who bought it thought it was valued at that price or higher. That's not entirely Valve. You know what I mean? Like Valve, yes, created the percentage system and the pattern system and the wear system, but if people thought it was ugly, they wouldn't be buying it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like stocks. You know what I mean? If you really want to get into it, if you don't know what you're doing and you're not going through an investment company, you're not going through a broker themselves, it is a gamble. You know what I mean? If you're just throwing money at a stock, it could explode like Nvidia. Do we blame the stock
Yeah.
market for a gamble? No, because if you want, you can put. There's a chance that when you put your money into a stock, it could drop to zero, and you get nothing back. But generally speaking, you put your money into a stock, whether that price goes up or down, you can pull that money out. You know what I mean? Same thing here. If they
Yep.
really want to look at it like that, you can put your money into a gun skin, and hope that it goes up or down. Now, I know they're talking about the loot box system, where you pay the money, it might go up or down. You know what I mean? You might not get something that's worth the same amount of money you put in, but when you buy a stock, that doesn't guarantee that you're going to get the same amount that you get out of it. That you put into it. There's no guarantee for that.
Yeah.
It's a chance you take. Now, granted, it's faster. You know what I mean? You know in an instant if you spent $2.64 and you lost $2.40. You know what I mean? You know in an instant.
Yeah.
But it's still there. So I don't entirely agree that it's gambling, but it's you know what I mean? It is chance. I can't turn that away. You know what I mean? I believe it was you.
Yeah.
You told me, I want to say like last year or a year before, about the psychology of the ticking. Like when you open the box, like when the guns scroll across your screen,
I did. I don't remember.
I was like, you told me about that. How it psychologically gets the person to be like, that was fun. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
I'm pretty sure it was you that told me that, because I don't have friends
That's
that
not true.
that do Counter-Strike stuff. You know what I mean? Like, you're the
Yeah.
only person I play Counter-Strike with and that understands
Yeah.
that system. So I'm pretty sure it was you. But
It probably was. I just whatever small factoid it is, I do not have in my head currently.
well, I think it's because you were taking like some like psychology class, and I think you're taking some kind of psychology class, and you were talking about the like it creates a dopamine hit. You know what I mean? Even if you do
Yeah.
lose, like the spinning, the sound, the clicking,
Yeah.
being
You had
so
fun
close to
losing.
the gun creates a dopamine hit that makes you want to come back again. Same thing with slot machines. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So I get that. I just don't entirely view it as gambling as well, because to an extent, you still get something. You know what I mean? Even if the
Yep.
community doesn't view it as valuable, you still get something. It's just not. It might not be what you value it at. Does that make sense? Like, just because I just recently bought a skin today, a factory new you know shotgun skin that I think it was pretty, but it was marked so low at a price, mainly like,
Han Solo's brother.
yeah, like it was you know what I mean, like it was low price, and I valued it at the price the person was offering it.
Hmm.
They got it for free. Like, literally, they got
Yeah.
it for free. It came with that one, because Counter Strike, they have side collections that you get free guns in if you pay for Premiere. You get a free gun every week, guaranteed. So, you know what I mean? Like, that's also a part of the. If I was on the side of New York, you could qualify that as gambling. You pay $15. Now, granted, it's $15 and you got it. Period. You don't have to rebuy it again. But you pay $15. You don't know if that free gun you get every week, if it's going to be valuable. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
again, the marketplace sets the price. Not so much now with Valve and their new system, because I know they're worried about being sued over loot boxes. And I think and it should be noted that this case is coming out now. Counter Strike's been having loot boxes since 2013. It's coming out now. Why is it coming out now? Now, granted, it's coming out now because people see value in these skins and the price goes up. You know what I mean? Like, you and I can dream about it. There was a time when So the case that I mentioned earlier, that had the case hardened 8K in it, the chance of it, it's like $135 or something like that. There was a time those cases were 3 cents.
Yep.
You know what I mean? They only care about it now because the prices are up. You know what I mean? They didn't care about it when in 2013, 14, 15. They haven't cared about it for the past 13 years. They care about it now because people value it. If I had to guess, they might want a portion of the taxes of it. If I had to, you know, if I really had to, put a tinfoil hat on for that. And for my final point on this, they say like it's harmful for children, and I absolutely agree with them. That ticking noise, that every time, that is absolutely harmful for children. Why are kids playing the game? Now, I get it. Like, it's a free game. It was only free for the past, like, 10 years. Not 10 years, like, the past, like, 5 or 6 years. Actually, it might have been 8. Whatever. It's free. I get it. But that's an M-rated game. Parents should be monitoring what their children do. I know realistically that's not possible. You know what I mean? Like, you can't monitor everything your child does. I remember being a 15-year-old boy with a laptop. Parents didn't know what I was doing with it until I could barely run my computer. You know what I mean? It was a struggle to open up tabs. But your kids should be monitored with stuff like this. You have to. You know what I mean? That's not the Counter-Strike's fault. That's not Valve's fault that you're letting your kids get access to this kind of stuff. Second of all, it costs money. Where are they getting the money from? I mean, for like young adults, I can kind of get it, like 15, 16-year-olds. Like, oh, they got their first job, kind of thing. Like, so they have the money, but they're talking about like children, because they already mentioned, young adults in here. So they're talking about children. How are the children getting the money? Well, the parents are getting the money. That's not Valve's fault. You know what I mean? Kids play Grand Theft Auto 5. Guaranteed. How did they get that? When I was younger, if I wanted to buy an M-rated game, my dad had to be with me. Or if let's say I was 17 years old. I even think 18-year-old. I think even though the box says rated M, 17 and older, 17 plus, you still had to be 18 to buy it. At least at GameStop and other retailers. Online games, you can buy M-rated games if you have like a full access account. You can make what's called like parental guide, viewing accounts. You know what I mean, for your kids. Mm-hmm. That way your kids don't see all the stuff. Because by that logic, well, guess what? Overwatch has loot boxes. Call of Duty had loot boxes. A bunch of other games have loot boxes. And those are all. Is Overwatch rated M? I'm pretty sure Overwatch is rated M. Or was it rated teen?
I think so. I honestly don't remember.
Yeah, but you know what I mean? You should be monitoring what your children do. I understand you can't realistically do that forever, but A, monitor what your kids are doing. B, stop giving them your credit card. Why are you trusting your kid with your credit card? But it reminds me of a quote I heard one time. I heard it was from an actor. Don't quote me. But saying a man can't eat a steak because a 1-year-old can't chew it is stupid. Or it was something like that. It's like, your kids shouldn't be doing it. You should be watching watching what your kids play, or making sure they don't have access to your credit card. And again, they're kids. Yeah. You can't predict everything, but it's like the game's rated M. Game's rated M. Kids shouldn't be playing it. You're guaranteed something just because the market doesn't view it as the equal value that you put into it. You know what I mean? Just because that's it, that doesn't mean that you lost all your money. You got something. The same thing with other loot boxes. Same thing with those boxes I see at Five Below. Same thing with those like 25, 50 cent, $1 coin machines. If we really want to get into it, the gumball machines. I like the color blue. I like blue gumballs. I put 25 cents in, I get green. I hate sour apple. Can I sue the company for gambling at the age of 8? You know? But
Yeah,
again, they
I
only
think
care because it's
this is
making
sort
money
of
now. But continue, yeah, sorry.
yeah. I was gonna say I think this is sort of in line with like one like this isn't something that Valve has sort of uniquely had to deal with. I know there's laws in I think France, in Belgium, that prohibit like when you get the case, you're told what's inside of it. Like the gambling sort of happens preemptively. So whenever you buy a case, when it's something where it's like you basically get to see inside the case, um,
Well, beforehand.
but once you've seen inside the case, so you can choose to see inside the case, and it costs you no money. I think this is how it works. You can choose to see inside the case, and it costs you no money. But once you choose to see inside the case, you can no longer sell it. So you can't like find a case that has like a dragon lore or something, and then like sell that case, or buy a case, see what's inside of it, and then sell it off for like whatever, without having to like actually pay to open the case, right? Um, because if you get a, let's say you get the free case that could have it like a Gungnir, right? You get the case, you get the Gungnir. If you're
Gungnir's
super
a skin.
lucky, instead of spending $2 to open the case, you can just sell the case. It's total instant profit, but they prevent you from actually like selling the case if you choose to X-ray and look inside. And it was part of some like gambling law that they have
Yeah.
where you're allowed to see the odds or something. Either way, it's not something that like Valve is a stranger to. Of people coming and be like, "Hey, you're making kids gamble."
Yeah.
And
I
on the
get, yeah.
one hand, it's like, yeah, it's probably not a good thing to have kids gambling. But on the other hand, I am very much of the same opinion where it's like so much of this is like this isn't a failure of the company. This is a failure of like the parents.
Yeah.
Your child should not be unattended, or like
Yeah,
not
your
even
child
necessarily
shouldn't have
unattended, but
like
like you should
unrestricted
be
access
aware
to
of
the
this
internet.
stuff. Yeah, it's that stuff, right? And it's sort of in line with like the whole Discord stuff where it's like, what if I want my child to have unrestricted internet access without having to worry? It's like I is effectively the same as saying actually it's even worse than that because I was going to say it's effectively the same as saying I want my child to be out in public without having to worry about them, which unironically I think is a more rational desire than wanting
Yeah.
that on the internet because that would be like, well, I want the ability to let, you know, to give my social security, to give my credit card information to anyone without any negative repercussions. Like, it's probably worse in some microcosms, but also like, there's an element of like, it's like I should let my kid be able to go out in public and do whatever he wants without having to worry about it. It's like, sure, that's fine, unless you live in Vegas, in which case, I don't know, probably not. I think adults should be allowed to do the stuff that adults do in Vegas. And if you're someone who has a problem with that, then don't raise your kids in Vegas. Like this is a
Yeah.
that's sort of like the position here where it's like, but I shouldn't have to worry about my child doing that. It's like, well, in most places you wouldn't. You're letting them choose to be in the one spot where they shouldn't be because you don't want to have to monitor them, right? It's like, oh, I want to let my kid wander the city. It's like, okay, I mean that's fine. Just teach them not to go near the red light district. Well, I shouldn't have to. What? Yeah, they should shut down the red light. Whoa, 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 whoa. These are
But
like adults get to make those decisions.
yeah.
Like, and it's that type of thing where it's like, just because you're afraid that someone might like show your kid something that you would not like readily show your child, or get them into something that you would not readily get them into. Just because kids shouldn't drink alcohol doesn't mean adults shouldn't be allowed to either.
Yeah.
Um, and
I
it's
should
like
be able to
these
spend my
this
money on what I
like
want legally.
yeah, like if I want to go to the liquor store, buy an entire thing of Jack Daniels, and then down the whole thing when I get home, or down the whole thing and then ride the train home, I should be allowed to do that. What the heck? As long as I'm not harassing anyone.
Yeah.
And if
But
your kid sees me do that, well, Maybe don't be out at
Don't send them to the
3 in the
red light
afternoon.
district.
Maybe
Oh.
don't be out at 3 in the afternoon in the middle. But yeah, it's one of those things where it's like it ostensibly sounds pretty reasonable until you realize. Actually, here's the big kicker, right? It ostensibly sounds pretty reasonable until you realize like the level of like surveillance like invasive surveillance that's required to like make it a reality. Where it's like,
Yeah.
okay, but how does a computer know that it's a child? And the answer is, well, and you get two positions. One, well, that's easy. We'll have the camera watch everything. The computer will record and monitor and assess literally every single action. Every frame of the webcam, every click of the keyboard, everything will be monitored and stored and analyzed by machines and people to determine whether or not it's a child doing the thing. Or you go, hey, that's really insanely invasive. And they go, oh, okay, here's the other option. No one's allowed to do any of it. The whole internet is boring and sterile, and adults aren't allowed to talk, like have adult conversations about adult topics, and for fear of a child stumbling across it, right?
Yeah. Yeah, but
Again, in line with
hmm
the whole Discord thing where it's like, well, we don't want kids getting into NSFW servers. Okay. Tell the parents to not let their kids join NSFW servers. And if their kids join NSFW servers, their parents should probably have access to that kid's computer and be like, hey, what are you doing in NSFW servers? Oh, it's a virus. Yeah, I'm not dumb. Or maybe you are if you're letting your kids go
yeah.
unmonitored like that.
I was gonna say when I was
But yeah,
growing
I know
up,
when I was younger, I didn't get. Yeah. Well, I was going to say, like, my parents were pretty tech savvy, so I wasn't able to, like, sneak anything past them. Like my dad does like computer stuff for a living. So like in my particular instance, to me, it's very foreign. Like these instances where adults are incapable, like the internet and computers are like this inscrutable um, sort of like maze of screens and images, and I don't know what's happening. I don't know what's going on. I can't keep track of. Like to me, that's totally foreign. Like my dad knows significantly more about computers than I do, and so when I especially when I was younger, so like the concept of being able to like hide something was just like, yeah, that's never happening because he knows more creative ways to hide things than my little brain could ever come up with, and he's already thought of all the stuff that I could figure out. Um, so I think my internet access when I was younger was rather healthily monitored. But yeah, I think it's one of those things where it's just like, or don't give your kid access to a phone that has access to the internet, which is probably just healthy in general. Kids shouldn't be
yeah.
on the internet.
hmm
Um, and then two, if you're gonna do it, most of them come with like whitelists and then parental protections. And if your kid is like working, if your kid is putting in the effort to go to your phone, to go through and release all the blah blah blah, and like do all these additional steps, there's probably some other like authority issues going on there. Like this is probably they're probably if they're that dedicated to look at boobs, brother, they've probably already seen them. Not
Oh
that they
yeah.
should continue to do so, but also like this is a deeper problem for that individual child.
Yeah, that might be a child psychiatrist kind of issue you need to figure out.
Yeah. Timmy won't stop looking at boobs. They're all dumb.
Yeah, again, I agree. This is a parent issue. Uh, they only care because things are getting expensive because people value the items more. You know what I mean? That's the only reason why they care. That they didn't care. They don't care about children. They don't. If they did, they wouldn't have stopped this years ago. Now, granted, I know you mentioned about those other countries, but even then, with the other countries, like you only get those boxes if you pay for Prime. You know what I mean? So
Mm.
theoretically, if the only reason they were going to CS was to get those boxes, you know what I mean? There's a chance that they'll pay $15 and never make. You know what I mean? Like again, I mean it's kind of cool that they have that system, but at the same time, like I don't know, that sounds kind of weird to me. At least the way they did over there. But yeah, monitor what your kids do. Don't let your kids have unfettered access to your credit card. That just sounds stupid. How do you get away with that? You know what I mean? Like if there's a random charge that I don't know about, my bank sends me a message. They're like,
Mhm.
"Hey, do you normally shop at ediblethongs.com? Cuz someone spent $25 there." You know what I mean? Like I have to imagine that if you don't play video games, you don't play Counter-Strike, your bank's like, "Hey, you just spent like $50 at Steam. You
Mhm.
don't play video games." Also, check your
Right.
bank statements. Okay, that's just a healthy thing to do.
Yeah.
But So yeah, that's our take on it. I think the lawsuit's kind of dumb, but I don't know if it'll go anywhere. You know what I mean? Because I know Valve is they're changing the way they do their quote unquote loot boxes. They got that terminal thing where it shows you 5 random items and you can decide if you buy it, but which I kind of get. I also kind of don't, but that's a different story. All right, but I think that's what we're gonna call it. If you made it this far, thanks for listening. Don't forget to like and comment and subscribe, and we'll catch you next time.